You know, I used to have this whole system down. Every week, I was at the theater like it was my job because it kind of was. I was getting early press screenings, I was there opening night for everything else, sometimes hitting the cinema 3, 4, 5 times a week. I was extremely meticulous about it. I'd then rush home afterwards, maybe slam a cup of coffee, and stay up all night editing a review to get it out to you guys as fast as possible. I was fully committed. My goal for this year was just to see everything and review it. But then something happened. Somewhere around the middle of the summer, I just stopped. And you know, I've been thinking about it a lot. It wasn't really one big moment. It was sort of a slow burn. It was while I was just sitting in another dark, overpriced theater, smelling that fake butter smell and realizing I was spending way too much time away from my family to watch something that did absolutely nothing for me. I'd walk out of a 2.5 hour movie and just feel empty. Almost like I just stared at a wall for an afternoon. And I think the worst part is that I didn't care about the movie. I checked the comments on my reviews and felt like some of the people who saw the review didn't care either. We all collectively were just going through the motions. So that day, I made a decision. I'm done with the grind. I decided I want to use this channel to talk about things that actually interest me. And hopefully you do too. I want to talk about issues like the one we're diving into today. I want to talk about older movies that actually have a soul, TV shows that are worth binging, and pop culture that's actually, interesting. This new stuff just ain't doing it for me. I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, because personally, I think movies have a serious problem. And it's not just the bad scripts or the lazy sequels, it's something deeper. It feels like the whole damn system is broken. And that's what I want to talk about today, why most movies suck now.
You suck, you jackass!
Howdy, and thanks for clicking on this video to see what this jackass has to say. I appreciate you. If you happen to be new to the channel, my name's Chris, and I'm just a guy who dedicated his entire life to the movie industry, but even I can't help but feel burned out on the whole experience. I still love talking movies, but movies that left an impression, a relic from a better time, I suppose. I know this sounds like old man yelling at clouds territory, but I'd appreciate it if you hear me out. I think there's just something fundamentally broken about how movies are being made right now, and it goes way deeper than just Hollywood ran out of ideas or whatever. We've got a perfect storm of problems that are killing cinema, and honestly, I'm starting to think it might be too late to fix it. So let's talk about what I personally think the real issues are. That viral moment problem. So here's one of the things that I think is happening. Movies aren't being made to tell stories anymore. They're being crafted to generate viral moments. Every single big release feels like it was designed by a committee of marketing executives who asked, what's gonna trend on TikTok today? Instead of, what story are we trying to tell here? And I mean, if you really think about it, how many times have you seen a movie where there's this one random scene that feels completely disconnected from everything else, but it's clearly designed to become a meme? Or dialogue that sounds like it was written specifically to be quoted on Twitter. That's not an accident. The whole industry has become obsessed with creating these shareable bite-sized moments because that's what drives engagement on social media. But the thing is, a good movie isn't just a collection of viral moments strung together. It's supposed to be a cohesive story that builds to something meaningful. When you're prioritizing meme potential over narrative flow, you end up with movies that feel hollow and completely disjointed. And honestly, I could go on for hours on how this affects the actual filmmaking process. I mean, studios are literally changing scripts mid-production based on what's trending online. They're not committed to telling the story they started with. They're choosing whatever they think will get the most engagement this week. The third act disaster. Even if we ignore the viral moment bullshit, I think there's an even bigger problem. Nobody knows how to end a movie anymore. I mean, seriously, when was the last time you walked out of the theater feeling genuinely satisfied with how a movie wrapped everything up? I'll wait. And I don't think this is just me being picky. There's been actual analysis done on this, and it's a real phenomenon. Movies are getting worse and worse at sticking the landing. Marvel has turned this into an art form, for example. They set up these interesting character conflicts and personal stakes in the first 2 acts, then completely abandon all of that for some generic CGI battle where the fate of the universe hangs in the balance. Take Shang-Chi. You got this beautiful personal story about a son confronting his relationship with his father, dealing with family trauma, exploring his identity. And honestly, I thought it was pretty compelling stuff. Then the third act shows up and suddenly there's a giant demon dragon and everyone's shooting laser beams at each other. And all that emotional weight just completely evaporates. It's like screenwriters have forgotten that the climax of your movie should resolve the conflicts you spent the first 2 acts setting up. Instead, they just default to make everything explode and hope nobody notices we didn't actually finish our story. And this isn't just a superhero problem. Horror movies are notorious for doing it. They spend 90 minutes building atmosphere and tension and then completely shit the bed with some ridiculous reveal that makes absolutely no sense. Romance movies set up these complex relationship dynamics, then resolve them with some grand gesture that ignores all the actual issues the characters are dealing with. And then you got movies like Weapons. I know I'm supposed to sit here and glaze it because everybody on film Twitter and their mother loved that movie. But for me, the third act was so off the reservation that it just completely took the first 2 acts and shat all over them. I know I'm not the only one, but there's a lot of people that love that movie. The theater experience has become hell. Meanwhile, the actual experience of going to see these disappointing movies has become absolutely unbearable. And I don't have to tell you I'm exaggerating when I say that going to the theater has turned into a gamble where the odds are stacked against you having a good time. I mean, we're paying like $20 for a ticket. What are we doing here? This is now more expensive than a monthly subscription to Netflix or something. And you walk into the theater full of people who apparently think they're watching TV in their living room. Phones everywhere, people taking calls, kids watching YouTube videos at full volume, teenagers live streaming the movie they paid to see. I've seen all of this. And I'm sure some of you have too. And here's the thing that really gets me. When you politely ask someone to put their phone away, you're the asshole. You're the one disrupting everyone's experience by asking people to follow basic theater etiquette that used to be common sense. And I think the pandemic only amplified it and made it worse because people got used to watching movies at home where they could pause, talk, check their phones, do whatever they wanted. But they brought all those habits back to the theater, and apparently nobody told them that collective experiences require different behavior. So us as a consumer get stuck paying premium prices to sit in a room full of people who are actively making your experience worse, all to watch a movie that probably sucks anyway. And then, just to add insult to injury, the same movies show up on streaming services 2 weeks later where you could have just watched it from the comfort of your home without wannabe influencers recording TikToks next to you or listening to some Karen yap throughout the entire movie. The attention span crisis. All that to say, I think there's something even deeper going on here. And honestly, it's genuinely depressing to think about. Our collective attention span is completely fucked, and it's affecting everything about how movies get made. People are spending hours every day consuming content that's designed to give them dopamine hits like every 15 seconds. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, it's all engineered to be addictive, to rewire your brain to crave constant stimulation. And when your brain gets conditioned to expect something new and exciting every few seconds, sitting through a 2-hour movie starts to feel impossible. In 2004, the average person could focus on a screen for about 2.5 minutes before getting distracted. By 2012, that number had dropped to 75 seconds. Now, we're looking at attention spans measured in seconds, not minutes. And here's what I think's the really sad part. Kids are growing up thinking this is normal. They're trying to watch movies by skipping forward every few seconds because they literally can't handle the pace of traditional storytelling. Their brains have been trained to expect constant stimulation, so anything that requires patience or sustained attention feels boring to them. And in turn, this is affecting the movies themselves too. Studios know their audience has no attention span, so they're making movies that cater to that. Fast cuts, constant action, loud noises, anything to keep people from getting bored and checking their phones. But let's be honest, that's not good filmmaking. That's just digital crack designed to keep you hooked. The AI script problem. And if that wasn't bad enough, there's growing evidence that some of these terrible scripts are literally being written by AI. I'm not talking about writers using AI as a tool. I mean, studios are actually letting artificial intelligence write entire scripts and then polishing them up just a little bit. If you've watched movies for long enough, you can tell. I mean, look, you know how sometimes watching a movie and the dialogue sounds completely unnatural, like no human being has ever talked like that in the history of the world before? Or the plot follows these weird logical patterns that don't make any emotional sense? Honestly, there's a really good chance you're watching something that was at least partially generated by a computer. And that's just the way things are gonna be now. The thing about AI-generated scripts is that they can mimic the structure of storytelling, but they have no understanding of what makes a story emotionally resonant. They can follow the 3-act structure, they can hit all the plot points and make a story technically functional, but they can't create genuine human connection or authentic emotional moments. And you know the studios love this because it's cheap and it's fast. Why pay a human writer to spend months crafting a story when you can get a computer to spit out a screenplay in a few minutes or hours? The fact that the result feels hollow and lifeless is apparently not their concern. Marvel's script chaos. And I know I alluded to it before, but speaking of scripts, let's talk about Marvel for a minute because they've turned not having a finished script into their entire business model. Alan Cumming, who's reprising his role as Nightcrawler in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, recently revealed that he filmed his entire part without knowing who he was acting with, what scenes he was in, or what the point of any of it was. And that may sound unique, but honestly, it's not unusual for Marvel. Rebecca Romijn confirmed that they're filming Avengers Doomsday without a completed script. They literally don't know how the movie ends, but they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars filming it anyway. And this isn't new to anyone who's paid attention to their method. This is what they call the Marvel method. Start production without a finished script and just figure it out as you go. And look, I get that sometimes you need to make changes during production, but when you don't even have a basic understanding of what story you're trying to tell, how can you possibly make a good movie? Honest question. And the result's exactly what you'd expect. Movies that feel improvised, where plot threads go nowhere, where character arcs get abandoned halfway through, where the third act feels like it was written by completely different people who never saw the first 2 acts. The emptiness factor. And this is my turning point. This is what really gets to me about all this. Movies used to make you feel something. They used to stick with you after you left the theater. You'd walk out discussing what you just saw, thinking about the themes, connecting with the characters' journeys. Now, most movies leave you feeling absolutely nothing. You watch them, you forget about them, and they might as well have never existed. They're like empty calories for your brain. They fill the time, but they don't nourish you in any meaningful way. And I don't think this is just because I'm getting older or more cynical. I mean, let's be honest, 2024 was objectively a terrible year for movies. 2025 isn't even better. I think it might even be a little bit worse. The stuff that's getting released was so forgettable that even the industry is acknowledging it. Box office numbers are down, audience satisfaction is down, and everyone's just kind of going through the motions. Movies used to compete with other movies for your time and money. Now they're competing with TikTok, with Instagram, with Roblox, with every other form of instant gratification that exists. And instead of trying to offer something different, something deeper, something more meaningful, they're trying to beat these platforms at their own game. But it's a losing battle. It's impossible, and it's also missing the point. The reason people used to love movies was because they offered something you couldn't get anywhere else. Complete, immersive stories that took you on emotional journeys. When you try to turn movies into 2-hour TikTok compilations, you lose everything that made them special in the first place. Is there any hope? So what's the solution? Is cinema just doomed to be a wasteland of forgettable garbage designed to generate Twitter buzz? I'm not gonna lie to you, I try to be optimistic, but things don't really look great. I mean, do you think they do? The underlying economic and technological forces that are causing these problems aren't going away anytime soon. Studios are still going to chase viral moments because that's what drives engagement. Attention spans aren't going to magically recover. The theater experience isn't going to get better as long as people think it's acceptable to treat public spaces like their own living room. And you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need every movie to be great. Maybe the future of cinema is smaller, more focused, made by filmmakers who actually care about storytelling rather than engagement metrics. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. There are still filmmakers out there making good movies. They're just not the ones getting $200 million budgets and nationwide marketing campaigns. If you want to find stories that actually matter, that have something to say, that will stick with you after you watch them, you have to seek them out. They do exist, trust me, I've seen a lot of them, but they're not being spoon-fed to you by the algorithm. So where do I think that leaves us? Is cinema dead? I don't know, man. It's not looking good. Hollywood Renew, the one that gave us timeless stories and unforgettable characters, might be on life support, and I'm not sure anyone has the paddles to bring it back. It's hard to stay optimistic when everything feels like it was made for a TikTok clip and forgotten about a week later. But here's the thought that keeps me going. and the reason I'm excited about the future of this channel. Even if the modern movie industry is a dumpster fire, we are sitting on an absolute gold mine. There are more than 100 years of films out there. Think about all the classics you've never gotten around to. The underrated gems from the 80s and 90s, the foreign films that will absolutely change your perspective on what a movie can be. The industry might be sick, but the art form itself is alive and well in the massive back catalog. And to wrap things up, I think that's what we can do here. We can stop wasting our time and money on movies that leave us feeling hollow and instead celebrate the ones that are actually worth our time and discussion. If anything I said in this video spoke to you, if you felt the same frustration, do me a solid and hit that like button. It really helps me know that I'm not just shouting into an empty theater. And hey, if you want to stick around for more videos talking about movies, TV shows, and pop culture that actually matter, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. We've got a lot to talk about. I appreciate you hanging out. As always, the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, but what do I know? I'm but a mere jackass. I'll try to do better next time. Catch you later, friends.
That talks too much. I'm just a jackass of all trades, don't know shit. I'll keep on talking, acting like I'm so legit. From politics to sports, I'll spout